Hi class. Um, this is my video for weeks for discussion board assignment. It says discuss the assessments or test reading techniques used by used by some authors that you find the most challenging. What are the positive and negative aspects or of their techniques? First, I use James Joyce, which had a profound yet dual impact on the assessment of modernist literature and narrative techniques, particularly through his pioneer use of screen of cautious and complex encyclopedic narrative in work like Ulysses and Figment. Positive impact. Joyce revolutionized literature by advancing screen of consciousness, a technique that allows for a deep, more realistic assessment of characters' inner psychological reality rather than just external actions. He emphasizes techniques which involve focusing on scripturalist meaningless and the hidden truth in modern moments, added a new layer of psychological depth for critical analysis. Negative impact. The extreme complexity and experimentation in his later work, such as the Lightning Puzzle and Dream Logic of Finger Weight, wherein continues to be acknowledged that this approach made the text unacceptable to many, rendering traditional assessments methods inadequate and turning interpretation into a specialized, sometimes exclusionary game. His work focused a shift in literature criticism, move away from purely traditional narrative assessments towards methods that could better handle or had to struggle with high levels of abstraction and linguistic fragmentation. How did you believe they should be improved? James Joyce perfected his assessment. James Joyce could have perfected his assessment by tampering his exhaustive, often overwhelming accumulation of detail with greater narrative clarity and structural cohesion. While his miraculous note-taking and stream of cautious techniques provided unparalleled psychological depth, critics argue his work was sometimes fragmented, self-cautious, and difficult to comprehend, lacking acceptability. What are some ways you can assure validity, reliability, and rigor of assessments or tests by studying and practicing your assessment skills every day? The second author that had a positive and negative impact on an assessment technique was William Faulkner. Known for highly difficult screening of cautious shift narrative and a linear time, most notable in the Sound and the Fury, which required reading to reconstruct the timeline. The positive impact Faulkner work is considered a cornerstone for practicing close reading and analysis skills, encouraging a deep engagement with text that focus readers to move beyond superficial understanding to interpret psychological and thematic complexity. The negative impact. Critics such as early reviewers and students sometimes find his screaming of cautious techniques frustrating, obscure, and design confusion, making it a difficult or impractical tool for evaluating writing proficiency, practically in tests focusing on traditional grammar and structure. Faulkner's work is famously used as an assessment tool to show that readers often grade mostly on mechanics and grammar, and very little on content. How could William Faulkner perfect his assessment? William Faulkner believed in perfecting his assessment by continuously aiming for an impossible standard, viewing his work as splendid failure. He suggested focusing on creating vivid characters, reading cautiously, embracing artistic demons, and view past work critically for future improvement, rather than seeking immediate perfection. What are some ways you can assure validated reliability and rigor of assessments or tests? I will ensure implementation of specific strategies during the design, administration, and evaluation phases to ensure they are valid, measure what they intended to measure, reliable, produce consistent results, and Regis challenges students to use higher order thinking. That is my video for week 4 discussion. Thank you.